Hello brothers and welcome back to another video. So we're carrying on the series with the greatest sons. We've already done the greatest sons of Rogal Dawn. We've done the greatest sons of Sanguinius. Next up is the greatest sons of Lionel Johnson. Now, of course, if you're new to this series, what we tend to do is start with a name generator. I'll include the name generator in the link of the description. Please post your Dark Angel name. For me, I got Athaniel Atharain, and it says below it, Stoic Commander of the Mysterious Monastery. So that is my Dark Angel name. I would love to see what you get for your Dark Angel name. Anyway, let's jump in and let's talk about Lionel Johnson's greatest sons. So the first character we're going to talk about is none other than Corswain, because we always start pre-40k, so I'm going to do some of the Horus Heresy / Great Crusade characters first. So Corswain is an absolute badass. He's probably up there. He's probably not as good as Sigismund with a sword, but he'd probably give Sigismund a run for his money. I'm probably going to say there's a lot of Dark Angel people in the comment section that'll argue against that, saying that Corswain would be the better bladesmith. Yeah, maybe you can, argue about that. But for me, of course, with my Imperial Fist fanboyism, I'm going to say Sigismund is always going to take Corswain out 9 times out of 10. Now, Corswain was actually born on Caliban, but he wasn't inducted into the orders of Caliban. For what I mean by that is that before the Imperium found Caliban, found the Lion, there was different knightly orders on that planet, and when the Imperium came, most of them then became Space Marines. Corswain was still born on Caliban, but he was never inducted into one of the knightly orders. He just became a Space Marine. He actually made a name for himself during the Horus Heresy, and this was during the Framus Crusade, when Lionel Johnson went on his own personal crusade to bring the Night Lords and Conrad Kurz to justice. It was actually during this Framus Crusade that Corswain probably saved his Primarch's life, because during a battle, Conrad Kurz and Lionel Johnson were locked in combat. They brought their honor guard with them. Corswain was a part of that honor guard, or should I say, he was a part of the Lion's retinue that went to meet Conrad Kurz. As Conrad Kurz got the best of the Lion, and he was actually, I think he was choking him to death, Corswain came out of nowhere, Fury incarnate, and he stabbed Conrad Kurz through the spine with his sword, saving the Lion in the process. So technically, Corswain, I think Corswain is one of 2 characters who I know of which has basically fought against the Primarch and actually survived and injured a said Primarch as well. Because of his actions that he did, of course, he rose through the ranks of the Dark Angels. The Lion trusted him, and with the Lion, it's all about trust. The Lion trusted him so much, he basically gave half of the Legion to command to Corswain. The Lion then went to Ultramar to see what was going on over there, and the Lion gave orders to Corswain to go and hunt down Typhus and the Death Guard. This led Corswain then to Caliban, where he met Luther. At this time, of course, Luther has given himself over to the bad powers, let's say. He's been listening to Caliban. He basically declared Caliban an independent planet, and he is the commander of that planet, but he played it off to Corswain that he was still loyal. He said to Corswain that, he basically destroyed the Death Guard fleet or made it flee, when technically he was actually hiding the Death Guard fleet along with Typhus. Now, because Corswain saw this task complete, he headed elsewhere to see what devastation he can bring to the traitors. And with the new law that we now have for the Siege of Terror, we know that the Dark Angels, led by Corswain, arrived at the Sol System. There was this badass arrival of this Dark Angel fleet, the Phalanx and some of the, the other big ships who were on the edge of the system, waiting to come in to maybe save, the Emperor and Dawn and stuff, to take them off Terra, just in case Horus was right. Basically all got together, and Corswain said, I'm going to Terra. I need to help down on Terra, because there was a big thing that happens on Terra, which we'll get into in a second. So Corswain led this fleet along with some custodian badass ships. Actually, it was the Emperor's flagship, if I'm not mistaken, and they broke through the cordon of enemy traitor ships above Terra, landing the Dark Angels down on the planet of Terra to take part in this siege of Terra, which was absolutely amazing. Because what had happened on Terra is that the Astronomicon had gone out, so any reinforcements that were on the way to Terra basically couldn't find their way. So Corswain with his Dark Angels are now fighting their way towards like the Astronomicon to relight the beacon, to call for aid. So technically it could be up to Corswain and the Dark Angels to save the Imperium. We haven't got to that stage yet in the books. We don't know if Corswain's going to be successful. Maybe someone else may do it, like Valdor or something. But what we do know right at this time is that Corswain is fighting his way to relight the beacon and bring help to Terra to try and save the day. Next up is Nemiel, and I'm sure again you guys will know the name Nemiel, and the reason why I've included him on this list is because this guy literally has big old adamantium balls, and you'll understand why. He doesn't really have that much of a story in the Dark Angel Legion itself. He did become this absolute badass chaplain. Most of his story is involved with his cousin Azrael, which again he turns into a librarian who becomes a part of the Dark Angels Legion. But the reason I want to talk about Nemiel is because Nemiel actually put Lionel Johnson in his place. He was the only one to look up to Lionel Johnson and say, no, you cannot do that. That is against what the Emperor wills. And the reason why he said this is the Dark Angels were battling demons, but by this time the librarians had basically been put out in the dust because of the Council of Nicaea, the verdict where the Emperor says, okay, no one can use librarians now because Magnus the Red, of course, broke everything and did everything wrong, as he always bloody does, so no one was allowed to use librarians. Now, when they were battling these demons, the Lion wanted to remake the librarians to bring it back to combat the demons, but of course Nemiel, being a chaplain who follows the Emperor's divine word and everything like that, basically said to the Lion, no, you cannot do that. If you do this, then it is heresy against the Emperor himself. Now, the Lion, in response to this, I'm sorry for laughing, the Lion in response to this basically turned around and slapped the head of Nemiel from his body, killing him outright. But I wanted to include him on this list because it takes massive balls just to face down not only a Primarch, but your own Primarch and tell him that he's actually wrong. Now, I didn't know whether to include this next character because technically he is not a son of Lionel Johnson, but he's definitely one of the most biggest cogs a part of the sons of Caliban, because without him then we wouldn't have the Fallen. Of course, this is Luther. For you chaps who don't know who Luther is, he was the chap who found the Lion as a child in the forest. He raised him in his knightly order. When the Emperor came and the Imperium came, the Lionel Johnson then included Luther into the First Legion, but of course since he was too old, he wasn't technically a Space Marine. He was just like a, well, I say gene enhanced, he was just an enhanced human in like a power suit armor, but he still had the respect and everything like that. He was still a formidable warrior and stuff, but he wasn't a Space Marine. Now, of course, the Lion, being the Lion, getting all the glory and stuff, this grew a lot of envy and jealousy inside of Luther, which then turned him against the Lion in a way. The Lion then banished him towards Caliban. While he was on Caliban, he basically declared independence, as we talked about with Corswain, saying, the Imperium doesn't rule us anymore, while still producing Space Marines for Caliban's cause rather than the Imperium's cause. So when the Lion eventually came back to Caliban to see Luther, to return home, Caliban basically launched all the rockets, the guns, shot at the Dark Angel's fleet. There was a massive battle. The Lion went down to the planet. By this time, Luther was embodied by like Chaos and Warp Sorcerer, so he could go toe-to-toe with the Lion. There was an epic duel. The Lion was basically put into like this 10,000-year coma. Wake up, Lion, we goddamn need you. The Watchers in the Dark took him away, and Luther was imprisoned then on the rocks. For the next 10,000 years, he was imprisoned in stasis, where every like Grandmaster came to interview him to try and get more knowledge from Luther, to learn about the Fallen, where they could be going, all that stuff. Recently now in the lore, Luther has escaped from the rock, escaped or let loose. We don't really know. We don't know where Luther is at this moment in time. What the lore states at this moment is that a shadowy figure is leading the Fallen, who are gathering in like legion-sized strength, but we don't know if that's Luther or that potentially could be Cypher. I'm hoping that it is Luther, and then the Lion comes back and we have this big old, War of Angels, as I like to call it, where the Dark Angels and the Fallen Angels, maybe the Blood Angels, all get involved, and they fight for the future of the Northern Empire of the Imperium, now on the other side of the Great Rift. Next up, let's jump to Warhammer 40,000 and the current characters of the Dark Angel chapter, or the current sons, should I say, of Lion L. Johnson. And the first one we're going to talk about is Asmodai. And I have to say, right, if Asmodai wasn't saying for the Emperor, this chap would make one of the most badass chaotic characters. I'm sorry, Dark Angel players, but just reading about him and some of the stuff that he's done, it's very, very chaotic. And I'm like, oh my god, Asmodai, are you sure you're loyal to the Imperium? So Asmodai is an interrogator chaplain of the Dark Angels. What basically that means, when they capture the Fallen, he goes in and he tortures them to try and make them repent. We've all seen the memes, make him repent, Asmodai, and stuff like that. And that's his job. He goes in there, tortures them, keeps them alive for days and days. There's actually something which I read which made me really think about, wow, this guy is actually quite evil. And he basically had all the initiates, or should I say, basically like the trainees killed because he didn't like the answers that they gave. And he just like, these guys are giving us the wrong answers. And instead of trying to teach them, trying to learn them, let's just wipe them all out and start over again. That is absolutely brutal, Asmodai. I think you really need to learn how to maybe take some better teaching lessons rather than, taking the heads of everyone and just starting again from square one. We have Belial, of course, who is the Grand Master of the Deathwing. The Deathwing got a big thing in the Dark Angels, all Terminators, all teleporting down. He's basically just the first captain of the Dark Angels. That's what it is. It's just, Dark Angels just have some fancy names. They try to make themselves a little bit more fancy than they really are. But Belial has actually stared down the gun, been shot, and come out the other side, as they like to say. So this was against Gazskull and another Orc war boss, I think it was Nazdreg if I'm not mistaken, assaulted the Dark Angels, trying to get some teleport homers to bring more reinforcements in. He countered the Orcs, pushed them back, purged them all, but then Gazskull himself appeared on the battlefield and he fought Gazskull. Gazskull did wound Belial, who then had to fall back because, of course, Gazskull would have killed him. Gazskull managed to get the teleport homers to bring in mass reinforcements. We're talking thousands upon thousands of Orcs, but Belial stood firm. I will not move. This is my planet, kind of thing. And they just held against the Orcs, giving enough time for the rest of the Dark Angel chapter to arrive to give the precious reinforcements to drive off the Orc forces. So yeah, Belial's on the list for going toe-to-toe with Gazskull, surviving and facing down a huge Orc reinforcement. There seem too many Dark Angels on this list, so I'm going to go with the next one, Dagal Harn. And Dagal Harn is actually a new character in the Sons of the Lion because he is a part of the Ultima Founding. He is a Primarchs Marine. I think the first Primarchs Marine that we're mentioning on this list. So he leads a chapter called the Prime Absolvers. And the reason why I wanted to put him on this list is because basically he doesn't care about what all the other Dark Angels care about. He makes his chapter not care about what all the other Dark Angels care about, and that is the Fallen Angels. When this chapter was founded, Azrael actually came to Chapter Master Harn and told him about the Fallen, the Unforgiven and all that stuff. And Harn was like, I don't care about this. The Fallen are no different to other traitors. So he's basically just going to see them all the same. If the Fallen appear on the battlefield, he's not going to drop all his plans just to chase down a handful of Marines when he can finish off Chaos and do a better job at just purging all Chaos from the system rather than just purging a handful. So this is why I wanted to include Chapter Master Harn on this list, because he's a badass and told Azrael to do one, basically. I'm mentioning Azrael. Why has it took us so far to mention Azrael? The Supreme Grandmaster of the Dark Angels chapter. Some would say the best swordsman in the Imperium right now. I'm sure Helbrecht and Chapter Master Valrak would have something to say about that title. But when it comes to Azrael and his leadership, of course, he's earned the mantle of Supreme Grandmaster because how much of a badass he is. Of course, he has secrets within his secrets within his secrets, because that's how Dark Angels roll. But one of the cool things about Azrael is that Azrael may have been responsible for the scattering of the Fallen. But I'm going to leave that tale for another time, because I actually want to do a detailed video on that, talking about the Fallen, Azrael, and his hunt for them. Now, I'm going to call the end of the video here, because I think I've been rambling for like 15 plus minutes now, talking about Dark Angels. What an absolute heretical thing to do. But I would love to get your thoughts and feedback on some of the Lion's greatest sons. Of course, there's actually a lot of great Dark Angels actually out there. I've just picked some of the ones off the top of my head while we're doing this video. So if I've missed anyone out, please tell me down in the comment section, as well as posting your Dark Angel name. See you all, have a great day, and bye-bye.